everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Florida Holidays podcast. My name's Abby, and as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Zara. Hi,
Hello.
Zara. Now, today, you'll see we've got a very special guest with us today. Hi, Ricky.
Hello, thank you very much for having us.
You're welcome. It's great to have you here. So Ricky's one of our travel specialists, and he will be talking us through all things cruise today.
Yes. So before we sort of dive in, do you want to let our listeners and viewers know how long you've been at Ocean, sort of your background and what you specialise in?
Yeah, certainly. So I've been in travel for the best part of 15 years and I've been at Ocean now for several years. Broadened the horizon onto cruises since being here and been fortunate enough to go out on many, many different ships. So yeah, it's a really good opportunity to come down today and speak with our listeners and explain a little bit more about cruise and stays and what else we have to offer in Orlando and beyond.
Love that. Thank you. So I will admit my cruise knowledge is pretty minuscule. I worked on board Disney Cruise Line for a while, but like seeing it from the behind the scenes side is so different than the like guest side. So this is going to be as helpful for me as it is for everybody else. So first, I think let's start at the beginning. What actually is a cruise and stay holiday? Because it's something that we will band about and we will say, but for everybody at home, what actually does that mean?
So certainly on the transatlantic route, going all that way out to the USA, there's so much more than just a cruise holiday. Often people will cruise without the flying, but going all that way, it's nice to tie into a stay as well. Get accustomed to time zones, experience things outside of just the ship and the islands. So for most, the cruise and stay will involve a few days in resort, visiting theme parks, unwinding, relaxing, seeing family. And it's all about getting out and exploring on board the ships. And a really good way to finish up as well after your sailing is spending some time at shore. And either way you want to do it, a cruise and stay is what it says on the tin. You stay and then you cruise.
I love that. I think it's a really popular option for Orlando plus cruise because Orlando is like, go, 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 go. And then when you cruise, if you choose to, it can be a lot more sedate. There are a lot of fun things that you can do. But like in my mind, finish your 2 weeks off with a little bit of chill time on a ship.
We're a match made in heaven, really, aren't we? Yeah. Because Florida, you've obviously got so many cruise ports, so many cruise lines going out of Florida, whether that be Port Canaveral, whether that be Miami. There's definitely something for everyone, a cruise line that's right for every person in Florida.
Yeah, 100%. Miami is the cruise capital of the world. The amount of sailings that come out of there, it is an American holiday. You look at how popular cruise is out in the USA, it's only really expanded out to Europe and UK in recent years, and it is the fastest growing industry in travel. Us Brits love a bargain, we love a good time.
Absolutely.
And one floating resort with everything on board. I've only experienced it in the last few years, and every holiday I now do, I look to see if I can bolt on a cruise just to unwind at the end.
Oh, that's the perfect advice. Like coming from you as a travel specialist, it is very reassuring to know that you now will consider it like a real key part of your whole holiday experience. I love that. And Abby sort of said there are destinations and cruise lines for every single type of traveller. Before we get any further, can we do a bit of myth busting?
Oh,
because
okay.
I feel like sometimes when you talk about cruising, people might think like old school, it's for older people, you've got to be fancy. Let's talk all the things. So is cruising complicated? Because we're used to, and a lot of our customers are sort of used to, getting on a plane, getting off, going to the theme parks, coming home. When you add in this extra element, it can feel a bit overwhelming. Is it complex?
It's certainly not a complex experience. You're right in that tradition, the myths. You think it's not something you want to mention on a podcast, but Titanic, it's very much tuxedos, black ties, everybody fine dining.
Real fancy.
It's far from that, Don't get me wrong, there are certain cruise lines that are at a top end where every night you dress to impress, whereas with so many ships, you can have your casual dinings, your turn downs. It's not frowned upon to walk around in flip-flops and swim shorts on some. So I think the myth of elderly couples and sitting around round tables, it certainly has been busted. And as long as you pick the right ship, the right sailing, it's going to be, something suitable for you.
Yeah.
In terms of how easy it is once you're on board, today's technology, you've got app services, you've got service desks. It is a bit overwhelming, the sheer size of it when you first begin. It is a floating city on board.
They're big.
They're very big.
Ships are big.
And I think after a day or two, you get used to it, You get on board day one, you check into your cabin, you unwind. Everybody's buzzing about on day one. You're finding your pool areas, your nooks, your crannies of what you want to enjoy. And then from then onwards, you really tailor-make your itinerary while on there. I know some people that like to go up to the top deck and explore the yogas and the classes. Other people catch a cocktail and the sun and unwind. And then it's all about the days at ports as well. And if you're ever stuck on board, there's plenty of, as you know, cast and crew that are happy to help.
We get all the questions. And you mentioned there when you stop at port, people don't have to just go off and do their own thing, do they? If they're not feeling that confident in a new destination, they have like port excursions and things that will literally take people from the ship to their excursion, to the beach, to the whatevers, and bring them back again. So they'll take all that stress away, don't they?
Yeah, exactly that. You've got excursions on board. You can pre-book them before you go. If you want a guided tour, you can go out, swimming with the pigs, which is probably one of the most iconic.
I'd love to do that. I love pigs. I'd love to go swimming with the pigs in the Bahamas.
Yeah, you've got animal encounters, you've got treks, safaris, waterfalls. Or you can get off and just explore at your own pace. The one thing that I love about cruises the most is the people that you meet on board.
Yes.
You're going to be with them all week long. You often go out in these beach destinations. You meet someone, you'll never see them again. You often dine with the same people. You see the same people around the pools. And, more often than not, I've been on board and I've spoke with somebody, what are you doing tomorrow at port? They're going there. Do you mind if I come along? There's always going to be ways to get around and figure it.
I love that.
So we're still myth busting.
Yep.
So as now we've got all these we've got the bigger ships being built. What are surefire win cruise ships for families?
I suppose on the scour ships now, there's something on board for everybody.
Yeah.
From aqua coasters to roller coasters to ice rinks and water parks. Certainly sailing out from Port Canaveral, it's a real twin centre with the Orlando theme park. Yeah. So out from there, you've got the Royal Caribbean.
Those appropriate ships, I guess.
Yeah, Royal Caribbean is probably renowned for families as well as Carnival MSC. Then you've got more towards the adult focus, the Celebrity, Cunard, just to name a few. So
I saw in November, I saw the NCL Prima at Port Canaveral. I mean, that one, it got go-karts on the top deck. It was insane. Golf courses, all manner of different things. Like, I feel like the kids wouldn't have done it in a week, all the activities that was available.
It's mad. They have such a lot on board. Like, the kids' spaces sometimes are so sprawling. And quite often they have like different dedicated areas for different ages, don't they? So they'll have like a baby zone, toddler zone, younger children. They'll have the teen areas, don't they, where they could just chill out and be sort of recluses from their families. There definitely is something for everybody, I think, at this point.
Exactly that. The kids' clubs. I know a lot of the cruise lines now offer babysitting services as well. So, after spending a full week in Florida to then go out on the ship and have a night to yourself to unwind and watch a show, there's plenty to do on board for them all.
Yeah.
And you mentioned NCL, from a family planning point of view, they're one of the only cruise lines that offer their drinks packages all-inclusive. So that full board sailing then goes to all-inclusive. And the moment you get on, the kids can eat, drink, dine, the whole family. I know in Disney, probably an ice cream now sets you back about $8-9, to get on board a cruise ship and to meet their heart out for a week long or so.
Absolutely, yeah.
Saves them a lot of money.
Yeah.
It helps budgeting as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's, people sometimes a little bit unprepared for how much they're actually going to spend on an Orlando holiday. So it's nice to know that those few days on the ship, you've sort of haven't really got to worry about. I mean, are they all still cashless? I remember that being a thing. There was never sort of any cash on board. Everything would be charged to your cabin. And that still works the same. Yeah,
exactly that. So obviously all your food is covered. You've got specialty dining that you can pay for, as well as drinks and coffees if you're not on a drinks package as well. So it's all charged to your rooms. And you often find you can put caps on that as well. So if kids are planning time in the arcades, they want a bit of freedom to spend. You know, you've got older kids. As long as you speak with guest services and put a cap on.
Oh,
that,
okay, yeah. Oh, that's
will allow
good.
them
Oh, so
to
you
do
can
that.
do that. That's really good.
Pro parenting tip. I like that.
And then you mentioned speciality dining. So what is sort of included in that package, in your sort of cruise package versus speciality dining? What are the differences in price, I guess, service? What makes them a speciality restaurant? And I know that's probably a really broad question for you to answer, but just in general terms, are they more upmarket? What's the difference?
So on board the cruises, you often find at a full board basis, you know, round the clock dining from 24-hour pizzerias to buffet grab and goes. And you know, thinking of some cruise lines, they've got in excess of about 20 restaurants on board. Within that, you've then got additional charge services. You know, if you want an upmarket sushi or you want a fine dining steakhouse, there'll be a handful of restaurants on board that you can book throughout the stay. And it does come at a small fee, but then, you know, it's that enhanced service, certainly bigger plates. And the one thing on cruise lines you find, it's not helpful on the waistline, you know, and with those speciality,
you're not going to go hungry.
with those speciality dinings, you know, they really do treat you like kings. They feed you so well. And it's all dependent on cruise lines. Some of them give you maybe one or two free speciality dinings throughout the stay. Others you pay as you go. And thinking of the top experiences, you can even dine with the captains on board, you know, a fixed 7 to 9 course menu. Oof. And I suppose it's whatever your budget desires and how fancy of a meal you want.
Wow, this is so definitely something for everyone.
Yeah. So we've touched there a little bit on dining. What else is included in your cruise costs? So obviously you've got your cruise, your dining. Can we touch a little bit on things like entertainment and what else is included in that sort of basic cost? And then outside of specialty dining, what else might you want to budget for excursions and things like that?
Yeah, so in terms of what a basic cruise package will include, it will include your full board, your meals around the clock. You often get soft drinks, tea, coffee alongside main dining areas. Additional costs that you have to factor in are drinks packages, whether you want soda, alcoholic, or the mocktail cocktails as well. But in terms of on board, all your entertainment is covered. Shows from acrobats to live entertainment, getting the crowd involved, often evening shows as well. And these are Broadway spectaculars, you know, these are people that live and travel around on board the ship. And, you know, it's hard to explain. The one thing that I love about cruises is everything you need is on board, you know, from the casino to the pools, to the water parks, to the entertainment, to the kids clubs. You know, looking at a 5-star luxury all-inclusive resort or full-board resort, it costs you hundreds of pounds per person per night. And to get this all on a floating vessel at a fraction of the cost, it's real worth it. And you get to tick off some of the best beaches in the world as well, you know, wake up each and every day and be in a different place. But I can't think of many things that are not included. I know some of the main attractions, things like the roller coasters, come at a very, very small fee. You know, ice rinks and rentals of segways on the top deck. You know,
I can't even believe we're talking about ice rinks, segway hire on a cruise ship. But it's just nuts. Yeah,
it's a budget. I'd say on top of a cruise, if you put $50, $60 a head aside, you know, everything's then going to be covered, and probably some days and nights out at port as well.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I like that.
Yeah.
And some of the cruise lines now have their own private islands, access to which, again, is included, like in the cost of your cruise there. So you get off there as a port, like you would do a normal port. Which cruise lines, off the top of your head, sorry, this puts you on the spot a little bit, which cruise lines have private islands that our customers might want to consider?
So there's certainly a lot of private islands. I think, as all Americans, they like to compete to be the biggest and best. Always. And there's no different with the cruise lines. You know, they're always building and expanding their islands. Disney have their own private island, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity Carnival. These all have great places to visit, and having done a few, they're all unique in their own way, you know, from complete remote private islands to beach clubs. And the excursions are real affordable on there as well. You know, some people like to get off the private islands and unwind, relax, powdery white sands and blue seas. Others like to go, you know, I've even gone swimming with sharks on some of the islands. And, you know, it's crazy. Once you're on there, it's what paradise really does seem to be. And not only have you got the private islands, you've got complete habited ones as well, from Nassau to Dominican Republic to St. Kitts and St. Martin's. I suppose it's about finding the right one for you, but yeah, there's not many times throughout the year you can say you're just popping over to a private island for the day.
Can you imagine?
So if you were to take a call from one of our customers and they've probably never cruised before, they want to go to the Caribbean, what would your sort of advice be? Where would you suggest their first itinerary look like as a family? So if they'd been to Orlando, they were planning on going to Orlando, then they wanted to do a cruise as a family for the first time, what sort of itinerary would you recommend for them?
I suppose it's hard to establish without an in-depth conversation. You know, speaking with an expert, they're going to be able to partner up what's important to them. For some, it's the wow factor. You know, these big ships, these roller coasters, and like you say, go-karts on board. They want entertainment to continue out at sea. For others, it's service. You know, people are very committed to Royal Caribbean due to their on-board service, and if they want that touch of luxury, know, fine dining there. And then others is the itinerary and the sailings, whether they want to tick off Jamaica or a private island. Bahamas is probably our most requested. You know, a lot of people have that dream of visiting out to the Bahamas. So it's a very hard question to answer.
Yeah.
It's dissecting what's important for them and then matching up the right ship, itinerary, sailing.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you're there for, isn't it?
Absolutely,
when you get the customers are on the phone, that's exactly what you're there for.
Yeah, that's the sort of conversation that you want to have with people, because just like with any other holiday, it is not cookie cutter. It's not the same for everybody. Not everybody is suited to the same things. They don't want the same things. And when there's so much choice out there, that's where, you know, our customers talking with experts like yourself, it really comes into its own.
Yeah.
It is so important to match up the right ship to the right person. You know, having done multiple different cruise lines, I often get on board and think, who would this suit in my family? And having been on one or two of them, I think if my grandparents or parents had been on this, you know, what would their perception have been? And, you know, if it's a multi-generational trip, it's going to be different to a young couple's going out. And like you say, it's very important to match up the right ship, the right itinerary to the right person.
Yeah.
As ultimately it's a lot of money and you want what's best for you.
Of course, yeah. And we don't just do cruises out of Florida. Obviously, we touched a little bit on sort of Port Canaveral and Miami. Can you tell us a little bit about other cruise ports around the US that we can arrange sailings out of, and what sort of other itineraries they might look like?
Yeah, I suppose most popular is the Caribbean sailings. You often get them split into 4 different categories. So you've got the Eastern Caribbean, the Southern Caribbean, the Western Caribbean, and then you've got the shorter Bahamas as well. They often come from sort of southern ports, eastern ports, the likes of Florida, New York, or Galveston, Texas, New Orleans. I think as cruise has grown in recent years, people do want to explore different destinations. So I don't know where it's coming from, but Hawaii seems very popular at the moment.
It's definitely, she's having a moment.
Yeah.
Everybody wants Hawaii right now.
So at the moment, we're getting a lot of sailings out from there, the West Coast. You can head out from Los Angeles, Seattle. And again, a real hidden gem is Bermuda, going out short sailings, I suppose, with hundreds of different ships and different itineraries, island-based, transatlantic, Caribbean. You know, there's going to be a sailing that can get you there. It's just doing the research with us and finding the ship to match it.
I adore it. I think I was speaking to one of our product team the other day about the Hawaii itinerary, like sort of staying in California for, I don't know, I was going to say a few days, but I feel like it was closer to like 10 days. And they're sailing out to Hawaii. That just sounds perfection. And I know we have the Seattle cruise that goes up, I want to say, towards Alaska. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. My geography is horrific. His face, she's like, sorry, stop talking. Yeah, the cruise from Seattle out to Alaska for like all the wildlife and things, that would just be beautiful. And I know Disney Cruise Line at one point, I'm not sure if they still are, but they did an itinerary up there, didn't they? Sort of a Canadian one.
I think they still do.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it. I get all the stuff through my social media feed. I'm pretty sure that they're still doing that.
So you don't have to be in Orlando to get your Disney fix, because I sailed out of Galveston on Disney Cruise Line. So I, was nowhere near Orlando and I still was able to get my Disney fix. So there are ways and means to do it for sure.
I was just going to ask a couple of a practical question really. Again, I'm just thinking about people that have never cruised before, and we're talking about cruise and stay holidays today. So what does that look like practically? So you've had a week in Orlando or somewhere and you are joining your cruise. What do you do with all your luggage? What can you take on board? Obviously you've cleared through customs at the airport. What do you need to do in order to get on the ship? Like, what can you take in your luggage? That sort of thing.
That's a really good question.
So in terms of what you often find with the Orlando-based ones is people go action-packed, theme park bad. You're doing long days, walking 5-10 miles a day around the parks. And it's nice to come back, feeling recharged and relaxed, like you've actually been on holiday. For some people that hit the parks hard, it does turn into a bit of a military mission.
It does, yeah.
It's like, I know that with the military timings.
Yeah, that's great. My type of holiday.
Yeah.
So there's different ports to get around from. In terms of out from Orlando, you can catch the bus or an Uber over to Port Canaveral. There's certain cruise lines like Disney that will even pick up your luggage in resort and take you over to the coast for you.
Do other cruise lines do that as well, apart from Disney?
You'll find it's mainly just Disney accommodation, Disney Cruise Line.
Right, okay, yeah.
There are shuttle buses that you can provide. We as agents can link them up and sort all their transportation.
Perfect.
Other ports, Tampa again, is make your own way, shuttle buses or taxis. I'd say the most groundbreaking thing to happen in recent years is the brand new Brightline.
I was just thinking about that, getting the train down to Miami.
Yeah, it's so many cruises out from there, and get on that bullet train, get down the night before, and then head out on your itinerary. And there's nothing stopping customers flying into Orlando and then flying back from Miami as well. So it makes it a lot easier travel time.
Yeah.
Once you're on board, you embark, you explore the ship. You certainly download the apps. Today's technology.
Can you do that before?
Can
you do that before you get on board?
You can download the apps. A lot of them only become activated once you are on board via their Wi-Fi. But in terms of managing the booking, their websites, you can sort of pre-select your drinks packages, add on excursions, and everything's then taken care of. Exploring the ship, different islands, entertainment, and then coming back. Something that I'd always recommend the customer to do. On the transatlantic routes back from the USA, you often find the departures to be late night.
Yeah.
So you get off the ship early morning, and then rather than spending all day with your luggage, standing about, not really knowing what to do, for a dream holiday, it's good to always tie in an extra night somewhere at the coast or
That
nearby.
is fabulous advice.
Just to enjoy the beach.
Yeah, that sounds good.
But it's very streamlined. If you speak to the right person and get the advice there, I could imagine it being very overwhelming for somebody that hasn't done it before. And any questions or concerns, it can always be addressed.
Yeah. And I would just like to drop in here about speaking to the right person. Our team are incredible. And this lovely guy has fantastic Trustpilot reviews. So if you don't believe me, just, the reviews speak for themselves. So we're very lucky to have you, Ricky.
Thank you very much.
I actually love that idea of tagging on sort of a night at the end of your cruise, because I'd never thought about that, as only ever having been like cruise side. I'd never thought about, if your flight isn't till the night time, what am I going to do with all of this stuff that I've accumulated from the islands?
Yeah.
I had a question. Obviously, we mentioned sort of Port Canaveral, Tampa and Miami. You said there was a lot of cruises that go out of Miami. Do you get a bigger choice out of Miami? Is there more options, or do you still get pretty good options out of Port Canaveral and Tampa as well?
Certainly a lot more options out from Miami.
Yeah.
Cruise capital of the world, it's a hub for a lot of the major cruise lines. And
Yeah.
not only have you got Miami just north of there, you've got Fort Lauderdale as well. Fort Lauderdale is great for couples, celebrity cruise lines, that kind of thing. So you get a broader range of cruises, different itineraries. The one thing that I noticed personally is where you sail from, the demographic of the cruises, the kind of people that are on board are different.
Yeah.
If I was going with my kids and a family, 100% Port Canaveral will be the way to go. Over a third of the guests on board are going to be kids.
Yeah.
It's focused more towards that entertainment and ship style. And then going down to Miami, if you go out on a shorter cruise, 3-4 nights sailing out from Miami, you'll find it to be more of an evening entertainment ship. The casinos, the bars, the nightclubs come alive. And then on the longer sailings, 7-8 nights, it's a real mix of everybody all together. So again, as much as the ship's important for the customer, I think also where you sail from and what time of year is also very important as well.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Another curveball, because you just said time of year. Is there a time of year, if we're thinking about sailing out of Florida, which primarily go towards the Caribbean, as we've said, is there a best time of year to do that? Any time of year maybe to avoid? We've spoke about sort of hurricane season in Orlando before, but is there any times that is like the sweet spot for the Caribbean?
Yeah, and going back to the myths, the stigmas of cruises, when on board a cruise ship, you're never going to go through a storm. It's very, very likely. They're experts in planning these multi-billion-dollar vessels. And, with a land, if you're in Florida and a hurricane's coming, you've got to take shelter. It's hitting you.
Yeah.
Whereas on a cruise ship, they know days, weeks in advance, and they'll simply just reroute and avoid.
Yes.
So the concern of lightning and high winds is very, very slim. If there's a time of year to go, it's certainly a lot more enjoyable. You find winter sun anytime from November through to March. But then in the summer times, you've still got glorious beaches, great weather. I often do get customers turn around and say, we don't want to go this time of year because it's renowned for high winds and hurricanes. And yeah, there's some really good documentaries online, some videos to see. And, these guys, they get paid to avoid it, and they certainly do. And I actually really do enjoy a distant storm, sitting out on your balcony of an evening, watching the lightning, the shows. I wouldn't be put off too much by the time of year of cruising.
No. I love that you've said January, like winter sun for the Caribbean, because we spoke about January being a great time.
Yeah.
In Orlando as well, it typically is a lot cheaper. The crowd levels are lower. So then just tag on a nice little Caribbean cruise at the end.
Wonderful.
Dreaming,
So
holiday
what
dreaming.
would you say to people if they, if one of their concerns was sort of seasickness or anything like that, and that was a reason that they've never been really very interested in a cruise before? What would you say to people that have got that sort of response? How often is it to be seasick?
It's something that, people do suffer with. I'm an avid fisherman, so I've been out on vessels all kinds of different sizes, and, these are floating cities.
Yeah.
More often than not, you wouldn't know you was on a boat unless you looked over the edge.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, overnight time when you're laying down flat, you might get a slight
You think,
feel.
did I just feel that then? That's the most I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got different myths, different beliefs, where your cabin is on board the ship, how high you are up on.
So midship is meant to be...
Yeah, they say midship's ideal. I personally prefer the back of the ship. You often find with boats, the back will sit and the front will rise. So you get less up and down motion at the back. But I think in terms of midship, it's less side to side.
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to put you off too
It's
much.
not generally an issue, is it? I don't
I've got some
think
little
so.
hacks.
Oh, have you? Go
Yeah.
on. Okay.
So obviously when I was on board, like people would get a bit woozy. Ginger beer.
Yeah.
And green apples, apparently. Ginger beer worked for me. Once I just got on board, and it was a bit odd, like ginger beer worked a treat. The only time that I felt it was the first time that I got off the ship, and I felt like I was still a bit, probably lasted, I don't know, maybe an hour or so, and then I was like,
Right as rain.
yeah, settled. And it was not enough to like make me feel poorly, but just every now and then if I'd sort of turn my head or something, I'd be like, whoa, feel like I'm moving. But
yeah.
Lots of little tips and tricks and things.
Yeah, learn something new every day.
Well,
Ginger beer.
We share a lot of useless information, me and Abs. I know you mentioned you'd cruised before. What's your personal favourite cruise itinerary that you've done?
I'd say the private islands. It's paradise. Everything you'd imagine the Caribbean to be. White powdery sands, turtles swimming by your feet. I think that's the moment where you step back and think, this is a dream. It's something you'd always imagine a vacation to be. So I really do like the Caribbean itineraries. I'd say the Grand Turks and Caicos is my favourite island out of them all. In terms of mainstream islands and in terms of private islands, I've done a few. I've been very fortunate to experience them, and it's just
they're all beautiful in their own way. They're all beautiful
I mean,
in their own way,
there's not a bad one in the bunch, is there? Let's be honest.
Have you got one? I don't know whether you'd call it a top tip or a tradition, or whenever you are on a cruise with your family, have you got something that you sort of have to do, whether that's a tradition or what is a highlight for you and your family as part of your cruise holidays?
So in terms of top tips on board, certainly explore different cabins and perks. For a little bit extra, you can save a lot. I know some cruise lines offer things like spa cabins where if you was to book a week-long spa package on board, it's going to set you back hundreds of dollars per person. For an extra £30, £40 at the time of booking, you can then get full access to the spa, the thermal suites for the full stay.
Oh, we're going to have a conversation about that. That's a bit of me.
Sit after a long day basking in the sun. I'm not the best of sun seekers, and in 30-degree plus heat, after spending all day on shore, I like to come back, use the showers, use the spas, unwind, recharge. So I'd say that's a top tip. Certainly don't be scared to pay a little bit extra to improve your experience. And in terms of on port days, although you've got excellent cuisines on board, you often find a lot of the dining on board to be traditional American, big hearty. Going all the way to the Caribbean, you've got to try some local cuisines.
Definitely.
Looking at the Bahamas, Arawak Cay is probably a highlight of mine. Just to venture down, walk through of an afternoon.
I don't know. Can you just repeat that, please?
So as you get off the port in Nassau, just a 5-10 minute walk down the road, you go through a place called Arawak Cay, which is known for its local fish fry. It comes alive of a night time, dancers, fire breathers, and you just head down there, and for a couple of bucks, you can get your local snappers, your groupers, your Caribbean feel. So although you've got all that food on board, I think it's criminal to go all that way and not try a bit of a local delicacy.
Do you know what I love? Conch fritters. We had those in the Keys.
That's the snails, isn't it?
Yeah. But, dreamy. Abby's looking at me like, what on earth? That's not for you, is it? No, I like that. Definitely getting off the ship and trying like the local food because it's so cheap as well in that part of the world. So after, maybe you're thinking, listen, I've been in Orlando. That's cost me a lot of money. I've now come on a cruise and I've paid for everything, so I'm going to enjoy it and not spend a penny when I get off this ship. It's very cheap once you get to that sort of part of the world. For a couple of bucks, you can be eating some of the best food you've ever had from these diddly little places.
And it's lovely to support the locals on the island.
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. Is there anything else you can think of, Abs? I'm sure,
No, I don't think so. Is there anything that you would like to say?
Have we missed something blindingly obvious that we should have said?
Yeah.
No, it's just exciting to see how it evolves, with so many new ships coming. You think, like I say, what cruises were 20, 30 years ago and what it is today. It's certainly growing, and once you cruise, you'll have the bug. I'd recommend anybody to give it a go. Yeah. Start off small, certainly don't go out on the 10, 14-day sailings on your first go.
Yes.
Jump on a 3-4 night, see if you like it, and see some great places and unwind, recharge.
Yeah.
And then you'll catch the bug, and that's when you'll want the 7, 10, 14, longer.
Like the round the worlds.
That's it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to go home and be like, Alex, not the next holiday. And he'll be like, what, we're not going to California next time? Yeah, we'll get a cruise in the diary, I think. I love that. Thank you so, so much for joining us, because I don't think we could have muddled our way through this one without your expertise. Thank you for joining us as well on another episode of the Florida Holidays podcast. We're on Spotify, YouTube, all your socials. wherever you get your podcasts. If you hit that subscribe button, you'll never miss a new episode, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.